and welcome to the final episode of the Coffee Creators Podcast for this year, or for this season. So I hope you guys weren't sad. Actually, you know what? I hope you guys were sad when you heard that. When you thought that this was the final. I'd like to think that you guys were sad. But anyway, this is a special episode of the Coffee Creators Podcast because this is the final episode for this season, or for this year, 2021. And this is a very special one because I have two co-hosts with me today, just to kind of change things up a bit. So before anything else, my name is Michael. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, welcome. I am a graphic designer / content creator / work from homer / pizza eater. And I've been doing this for about 2 years now. I create content on Instagram, on YouTube, and also run this podcast, a podcast for creators by creators. And with me, I have an old friend of mine, not literally old, Matt, but a previous guest from the podcast is, here's Matt. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me again. Am I a record guest now, a record returnee?
I don't know. I think so. I think you are the how many times have you appeared on the Coffee Creators? 3?
This may well be fourth.
Fourth, yeah.
If it's not fourth, it's third.
I think it's the fourth one for sure. Yeah. So welcome back. It's always nice to have you here. Yeah. And also we have our another friend, John Imperial. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Michael. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And if you guys are watching this, did you know that you can actually watch this podcast now on Spotify? And you can see our pretty faces. And I don't know if it's oriented correctly, but right now we have Santa in the middle. And
I'm on the left of mine.
And I'm the only one who's wearing the Christmas themed. Well,
We
actually,
have Papa Bear.
yeah, Papa Bear right here. But Matt, actually, I would say that Matt went above and beyond because he grew a beard. I'd like to think that he grew a beard just for this podcast, but no, he actually
Absolutely. That was a disclaimer before we went live. This is my Christmas effort.
Thank you for that. Okay, well, guys, welcome to the podcast, and I always enjoy your company, of course. And today's going to be a very interesting conversation. And as usual, this podcast is just about conversations between creators so that we can share ideas and experiences, and hopefully someone who is listening to this can have can go home with some information or maybe inspiration, something like that. So that's all we're trying to do. Since this is the last episode of the year, let's call this the year-end review. And so what I want to do today, aside from just the normal conversations that we have, I want to ask you both a specific question. And I can answer the same question. Actually, it's only fair that I answer the same question, but I want to hear from you guys. Since I understand all of us are creators in our own way, before actually we ask this question, I want you to tell the audience what you do in your line of work, basically, and how you create things for the internet. Let's start with Matt. Matt, what do you do? Can you tell a little bit about yourself to the audience?
Yeah, well, as we've already discussed, I'm a part-time Santa Claus. I'm available at kids' parties, and I have to dye it white on the weekends. But I'm a man of many things, as you know. In my day job, I am, and assuming a lot of the guests on this show will be American, but I'll cover both. I'm a realtor. I own a realtor company. In England, we have the dirty word estate agent or letting agent. My company does both, and I am one of the directors of that. So that's a full-time job in itself. After that, I am a dad of two girls, 5 and 7, and obviously husband. And then obviously I'm a content creator in my spare time. So it's very much an amateur effort for myself, but something I've been doing now for about 3.5, 4 years.
Awesome. That's good. It's interesting, though. You said an amateur effort. We'll get back to that, but I want to pin that in my head. Okay.
Okay.
How about you, John?
I am John Imperial. I was gonna say I'm an elf part-time. No, just kidding.
That's my job.
No, I do. I create videos on YouTube about tech and architecture in a way, kind of like a mesh of both of those things. I've been doing it for 2 years. Left my job this year actually to pursue full-time content creation and full-time architecture. So does that mean part-time architecture? Part-time? But yeah, I don't know.
We'll get back to that.
Well, it's full-time, yes, and it's crazy. Been doing that for almost 2 years now, and I started a podcast this year called The Figuring It Out. And yeah, that's what I've been doing.
So we're all busy doing our own thing. And although, it's easy to be, um, I guess, cornered into or placed into this box as a content creator or as a creator, but we all have our different voices, different niches, different specialties. And I think at the end of the day, it's really just different types of relationships with our audiences, right? So John does more of like a lot of the architectural stuff in tech. Matt has a lot in gaming, in setups, and
Lighting.
I'd like beard aficionados, I would like to think. Yeah.
Wax products.
Wax products. And I take a lot of silly pictures of my desk. So, okay, we've all been doing this for at least 2 years. John has been doing this for at least 2 years. I've been doing this all close to 3 years, and Matt has been doing this for about 4 years now. So the question I want to ask you both, and anyone can start answering this question, is after doing this for so long, for this year specifically, can you name an incident where you would consider it to be the biggest mistake that you've made in this year in the world of as a creator? And we can talk about it and kind of share our experiences. They can be embarrassing if you feel that you are brave enough to share that. They don't have to be. But the point is, I want it to be as real as possible so that whoever is listening to this might be able to relate to that. So, who wants to go first?
John,
Everyone's so quiet right now.
I nominate Michael.
I've led up to now, so why don't you start us off, John?
Okay, no, I'll start. I can't think if I would say or call it a mistake. It's definitely a lesson. And the biggest thing this year was, in the beginning of the year, I was in transition. So I was really have been aiming to leave my job for maybe 2 years since I started this journey. But of course, you need to be realistic. And at the early days, of course, it wasn't realistic to leave my job for a hobby. And I wasn't ready to give up the financial aspect of it, And so this year, I think that this is a good thing, because a lot of us, when we're starting out, we overcommit to a lot of things because we want to grow. We want to be able to work with a lot of brands, and we want to say yes to almost everything. It's kind of like that mindset of, what do you call it? Scarcity mindset.
Yes.
Of just like, oh man, I'm not going to have enough. And so I've said yes to a lot of brands early on this year, because I'm like, oh, wow, now I'm starting to get a little bit more traction and brands actually want to work with me now. And so I just felt obliged in a way to say yes, even though not knowing that, oh, man, I'm overwhelming myself because I'm still fully employed. I have my architecture side business, and then I have my content creation. And so that was a big lesson for me, the importance of saying no, because I can't say too that I was sacrificing the quality of my work. It was just more about that I delivered quality enough products or content. Yes, content. But then I'm looking back at it. I'm like, wow, I did that because I had the skill. Most people would look at it and be like, oh, wow, he did pretty good. But then when looking back at some of the content, I'm like, I could have done better. It was because I was overcommitted. So that was probably the biggest lesson for this year for me.
What was
saying no to the right?
Was there a point in your adventure for this last year that you said, okay, this is way too much than what I've bitten off more than I can chew, basically? Or is it kind of just like now looking back, you started to realize that?
No, like I knew, like, because around August time, I was about to go on a 3-week vacation trip, 2.5. And I had to like finish all of the projects that I wanted to finish. And I was like, man, I have I don't have enough time to finish all of them before I go on that trip. Yeah. And I was like, this is not good. Usually I have one deadline before a trip, which is like pretty normal. You want to answer all the questions and all that stuff. But this time I had like at least one for each category of my like path, job, whatever. And so I was like, oh man, I can't do this again. So once I finished all of that, when I got back from that trip, I was like very selective in how I'm saying yes. And also I'm like, hey, That's a key part. I can't deal with this until 2 months from when I receive the product. Because a lot of them, right, would send you a product, be like, we want to see it like within 2 weeks of you receiving the product. And I just had to be honest with them. Like, I really want to try this, but there is no way I'm going to get to it within 2 weeks.
Ding ding.
And a
I
lot
wish
of
I
them
had
are
a little
receptive.
ding here. No, because that's very crucial what you said. That's very important. And one of the things that I've actually learned as well, and that's setting your own deadlines, right? Not bending over for these people or these brands that want to work with you. Obviously, we're trying to compromise, right? But in the beginning, I felt that you always just had to say yes,
Yeah.
right? Like I need this in 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, but that definitely is not realistic, considering that we all have our own lives. Because from their perspective, they think we're just twiddling our thumbs. We're just sitting here. That's never the case, right? Like so. It's very important, John. I think that's a good lesson, definitely for people to understand that you can set your own what do you call this, like boundaries when it comes to like these deals. So very important. When
Absolutely.
John said, yeah, if they say I need this by this time, you can negotiate. Okay. So I guess the other question that follows that is, what if the brand says we can't? And that's another discussion. But the point is, you can negotiate. Okay. So, anything else, John? Hey, that's a good thing.
Yeah, no,
that
I think
wanted to ask
that
if
was
there's anything
basically it. All of the brands, when I tell them I can't, like if they really value me and like working with me, they usually say yes. I don't think I've ever experienced like, oh no, we can't, unless it was like a very specific time frame, like promotion. Like, oh, we're trying to push this product for the month of December, and I'm like, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, yeah, it's not gonna work.
Okay,
But
I want to talk
yeah,
about
people
that
are
really quick.
receptive. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk about that real quick. So you also have to realize, dear listener, that when they're planning out these campaigns, they're not like you or me. I'm going to speak for myself. I always assume that these brands are just like me. They wake up in the morning, they're like, oh crap, I have to promote this. You know what I mean? It's not like that. They have this planned out. So
Yeah.
they'll say, I'll give this, this is the time frame where I can reach out to all these creators and ask them if they can promote it within this time frame. So don't ever think that this time frame is always going to be cemented, right? Like I need this in 2 weeks. They don't need it exactly in 2 weeks unless they specify that the launch date is going to be a specific date. Then maybe there is a little bit of urgency there. But it's better for you to know that because then you can decide whether you want to say yes or no. So, but yes, because what John's just shared, it's very important to remember that there is always, most of the time, there's always going to be some wiggle room. Like if they say I need it in 2 weeks, say I can't. I have projects, and because this works for me 99% of the time. We'll say, can you send us something in 2 weeks? I'm like, I'm able to send you part of it in a month. Would that work with you for you? And they'll say, most of the time, like I said, 99% of the time, they'll say, yeah, sure, that'll work. Because they're just trying to see. They're trying to see how much you can deliver. They're trying to gauge you. So once you foster that relationship, once you both understand how each other works, then you'll have a better understanding of what you can expect from one another, I guess, moving forward. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. How about you,
Yeah.
Matt? Anything else that you'd like to share for this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed a couple of the topics which I've been discussing with a lot of my kind of fellow creators who are in a similar space to me. Is taking on too many jobs. I think mistakes are a tough one because I don't think I've necessarily made any mistakes. There's things I would do differently. I think probably focusing all my energies on one platform is probably my biggest regret this year. I had other goals other than Instagram, but Instagram is a bit like one of those savage ex-girlfriends that you realize once you get back with her why you left her in the first place. And, it sucks you back in with all this enticement of your reels going viral and this like insane growth. But actually, if you spend too much time on Instagram and start kind of getting disappointed at your growth or the numbers, it takes your concentration of other things. And I really wanted to hit YouTube hard this year, and it hasn't materialized. And I set a very realistic goal this year of very, very modest of hitting 500 subs. But then I haven't put a video out in 5 months. So, understandably, I've gone up by like 10 subscribers. So I think mistake wise, probably putting all my eggs in one basket. looking at the numbers again is a repeat foul that I keep doing, and that has a habit of denting my overall confidence at my abilities and ability to create content. So, case in point, a couple of recent reels I put out, which is very much like you see here, this kind of face to camera stuff, and people are commenting saying, the content's really good and it's really professional and the production quality is really good, but all I see is it's not performed well on the numbers, and therefore that content to me is a failure. When actually what I'm doing is I'm breaking comfort zones and I'm improving the quality. So there is probably more pros than there are cons. Those numbers are a very short-lived experience. In a month's time, you're not going to be looking at how many numbers that posted. But I live in that moment far too much, and I analyze posts far too much immediately after posting and refreshing. And I can't seem to break away from that mentality, which tends to drag my creative juices and chuck it in the gutter. So I think if I could do anything different, it would be to just trust the process and think more long term rather than live in each post, and focus some energy across other platforms, in particular YouTube, and try and grow that. So I have a second resource to go to if another platform isn't performing. Because I think we're all pretty much aware that Instagram is a very weird year and it's very up and down and very, very stagnant. And then suddenly you'll blow up and then it will go stagnant again. I had a reel that hit over 2 million views and suddenly went up over 2,000 followers in a week. And then since then, I've lost followers for the last 3 weeks. I'm in the negative, and that's I like a shallow rise. I don't like these peaks, and I think the reels have changed the landscape of social media in that it's quick gratification. You get this big spike, drops off, big spike, drops off, and it feels like you've got to stay on that grind. But I don't think reels are necessarily fantastic for creators who are doing a certain type of content. I think it's good for people who are very good at snappy, fun content. But if you're trying to get product stuff out, I think it's difficult to sustain that. So yeah, I think for me, spreading yourself across multiple platforms, I think that's what I would do differently this year.
You touch on a lot of things that I want to talk about, but I'm trying not to deviate too much from our main topic. Like, for example, okay, I'll bite on one. The Reels thing, I agree. Like, it's kind of messy right now because what it did was it alienated a lot of the OG Instagrammers. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about like the people that I follow, like people who share amazing photos, because that was what Instagram was for photos, right? Yeah. And then when I joined, I couldn't really compete with these amazing photographers, so I tried to basically add another level to it by adding some video onto my photos. So in the beginning of my post will be a short video, because that way it's just a little bit more interesting. But the rest of the post, like basically 90% of the post, is still based on photos and my description, right? Like the captions. Yeah. But Reels completely eliminated that. So people who are comfortable with doing that, who've gotten to a point where, because it's not easy to start off like that, right? Like, it's not even easy to share a bunch of photos. It's not easy to write long captions, and you work yourself up to it. And then so when Reels came along, for those who finally got to that point, we're like, okay, I can share more stuff on my captions or more photos. Suddenly it's just like gone. Like, no one's interested in it anymore. So that's it's kind of touchy. But I mean, the worst thing that we can do as people, I think, generally speaking, is to not evolve and adapt, right? Like in anything, in life, in work, even relationships. It's hard to just stick to where we're comfortable. So it's a rude awakening for us. But what you said though, Matt, I completely relate to. So a lot of the things that you said, like, for example, you said that you felt like you wanted to focus more on YouTube, but you ended up kind of sticking to what you thought or you felt like you knew the best, which was Instagram. And then you see like the drops in the follows, like the initial spike and then the sudden drop. May I just offer this as a different perspective, right? So instead of maybe instead of thinking your reel or your post was a failure because you didn't have enough views, maybe instead of that, you could look at it as this post, irregardless of how it performs, what it's doing is it's strengthening the relationship that you have with your current audience, whether it's 5 people, 2 people, 10 people, heck, even if it's just one person, you're strengthening that relationship, because at the end of the day, the most meaningful interactions are the ones from the people who really support you. So I don't really care, right?
I think
Like
that's a really good point, because the thing with Reels is obviously it's designed to get the biggest reaction. Okay, so a successful Reel is viral, so it goes big. You get this big influx of people. Those people don't hang around.
you know,
And I wouldn't mind that so much. I wouldn't mind if none of my Reels did well, if my trajectory arc of my followers was the same as it was 2 years ago, before Reels even existed. It was always an upward incline. So I could predict in 6 months' time I would be at X amount of followers, give or take. You know, so my goal this year was to hit 30,000 followers, and I've fallen 4,000 short this year. And you know, last year I could have gone through all of my analytics, and regardless of what I posted, you know, variety, content, or frequency, it was always an upward trajectory. And I think this year it's been quite frightening in the fact that it has actually been a really downward spike, and it's kind of hard to accept that when you've had such a long period of steady growth, that suddenly you can go backwards. So I think that is a bit of a, it's definitely been a bit of a dent of the confidence this year. And I'm moaning to guys in DMs all the time on Instagram, like, fuck sakes, I've gone backwards again. But it feels like that's very much designed around, if you keep putting out really short, attention grabbing content, then it's going to do well. But I don't find them gratifying at all.
And see, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing that I wanted to point out. Like, is that you? Is that you? Like, even if you promote a bunch of like whatever's trending, right? Like you guys have seen those thirst traps. I think that's what the cool kids call them. Like the
I
with the
made
ring
one,
lights.
actually. I did one. It actually performed
Did you do
really
one?
well. You didn't see it. You need to
I
go
didn't
see
see
my,
it.
Go see my
Maybe I
Captain America one. I did a Captain America.
Oh no,
one.
I did
It's-
see that. I did see that. Okay,
yeah.
yeah. I did see
It's
that
like
one.
11 posts ago. But, you know, I mean, that was a bit of fun. And the thing is, I thought about that on Monday, and I was like, I'll do a cosplay version of this, and I'm sure it'll
Did
do
you
really,
like it,
really
though?
well.
Did you
I
like
enjoyed
doing
that. I did enjoy that one, to be fair.
Okay,
I do like
okay.
a good bit of thirst is never going to miss to my followers. But
Especially
you know,
with that beard.
I think that's the thing. It's a real hard one of like, okay, do I just have a goof off account, or do I want to take myself seriously? And that's the trade up. Like the reel that got over 2 million views was 9 seconds, and all it was a very simple transition from having all my lights off to suddenly with a little timer. It was like a countdown. Bam, all the lights on. Really simple. I stood on a chair. I filmed it. My wife walked across a couple of times while I was joking about it. I put it up, not expecting anything. And a week and a half later, it suddenly then kind of triggered and it blew up. But then the reel I've just posted yesterday and the one before that, I've spent hours on, days, like re-recording it for a client. You know, the time has way outstripped any potential fee that I got paid for it. But I enjoy the end product, but I guarantee you those ones won't do so well. So it's hard, I think, as a creator, because we all like validation, right? We all like to go, we are measured as creators by the audience we've grown and the engagement and the likes on our posts. That's our only metric, isn't it? Especially on Instagram, our metric is you've got a large following, you've got a big engagement, and you've got a good amount of likes on all your posts. So suddenly that goes, and you're like,
Yeah.
am I
No,
gonna be
I
taken
get what you're
seriously?
saying, but that's one thing I don't really agree with, and that's one of the problems that a lot of the brands are starting to understand, is that they can't really put you in a category based on your following, or your following or the number of likes.
Yeah.
Just because number of likes doesn't necessarily sell, because at the end of the day, we're trying to sell products, or services. That's really what we how we earn our money. Right?
And that's out of your control, right? Because, like I say, I create content. I don't create likes, you know. And I do say that to a lot of people. Is once I create the content, it's yours. You can have it. I'll send it to you, high res, whatever, Google Drive. You can have all the content, put it where you want. I'll put it on my page. But once I've created the content, that's the value for me, is creating the content. It's not actually putting it on my page and engaging. It's the time element, and the value for me is those 3 hours you don't see or 2 days you don't see editing that video, that's what cost me, not physical money, but that cost me in time.
Let me try to see if I can try to change your perspective, Matt. Maybe your real value isn't this time that you spent creating it. It's not even the end product. The real value as to why people want to work with you is your relationships with your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter how many likes you have. It doesn't matter how awesome your reel is or your post is. It's how many people trust you. So that trust is the only thing that will almost guarantee a sale.
Mm.
It's not, I'm buying this because Matt made an awesome post. It's not that. It's always going to be, this is an awesome post, but do I trust Matt?
Mm.
That's when they start making that decision, right?
Yeah.
That's when they start, okay, I trust this guy's taste. I trust this guy's judgment. If he likes it, then most likely I'll like it too. So that's your real value. That's how I perceive it, right? That's how I've always approached it. That's why I'm not really bothered by, obviously, I mean, I get what you're saying though. Like if it doesn't perform as well. Because but to me is that if it doesn't perform, like it doesn't have enough likes or views, to me, it just didn't get to as many eyes as I would prefer. But I feel
it's very random, isn't it? It's very random, and once it's out there, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. And to be fair, I don't think from memory I've ever had a brand not happy with what I provided for them.
Right.
But it's like you say, I work really hard on Instagram, and if anyone is listening to this that has an account where they are very much behind the scenes, you don't see them, you don't hear from them, is I work really hard to break down the walls of who I am and what I'm about. And like we have the expression, we goof off. I'm very much about trying to break down that barrier and get as much personality across as I can. And it might not always be in a feed post, but it will a lot of the time be in my stories, like you do as well. And I try and create that big personality. So like I say, that comes back to trust and brands maybe connecting you when they didn't connect with the other guy. Well, the other guy, they've never seen his face. Although he might have fantastic content and photography and videography, you've got to be able to get a sense of personality, I think, across on the post. So that's something I've always worked really hard on. And I think I gravitate to other people who do something similar because that there is a person behind the account.
Mm-hmm. No, that's completely true. I agree with that. It's just I feel like maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe you're just beating yourself up too much. Like thinking that my content didn't perform as well, and you feel kind of like not really embarrassed by it, but you're like, oh, okay, this is you guys paid me for this, and now you've attached your value to that one post, and now you think that the next project that you work with you shouldn't be charging as much as you did the last one because it didn't perform well. No, that's not true. Don't ever think about it that way. It's not like that.
Well, I have 3 amazing attributes. I'm ambitious, I am insecure, and I'm impatient. So you get those 3 things together, and I'm never happy. I'm never happy with the content. But I think that's the thing. That's how you grow. Is you're not happy, so you try and improve,
absolutely,
and perfect, and you look to other creators. Obviously, I've benefited massively from probably around 18 months, 2 years ago, kind of getting more to know guys like you guys, which is more of the dark aesthetic, the clean aesthetic, that kind of work from home vibe. John, tonight I am going to go a little bit into that unit behind you because that kind of inspired me massively, and I've got some questions on that.
I got you.
Yeah, I've got so many friends who do similar stuff to me with all the RGB and stuff like that, and I've made wonderful friends and stuff like that. So Instagram, no matter how bad Instagram gets, I'm very thankful that I've been able to create genuine friendships and learn off people. But then you've also got this second kind of crew that I've kind of got to know, probably largely thanks to you, Michael, and Chelsea being back on, season 1. And just starting to kind of see who was liking your posts and you were tagging you, and kind of veering off into this other nice dark aesthetic world. And it definitely has influenced the way my account's gone. Not fully that way, but every now and again I can chuck in a kind of dark and moody post, and I really enjoy it. So that's the nice things you get from Instagram, is you grow as a creator because you kind of find out where your taste is going, and you can pull that taste into your own account.
Yeah. But that has a lot to do with how comfortable you are with exploring, right? Because if you didn't do that, Matt, if you decided to just stick with your guns and be like, oh, this is just me, this is my style, and never really clicked that follow button or even just looked at other people's accounts, you wouldn't discover anyone. And so I think that that alone is I mean, it's I can't think of the word, but basically it's like it's a good thing you did that. So that
Well,
you should.
Our story, the way we connected, is one of my favorite stories. Obviously, if you probably remember, you might not, but I reached out to you when I was in a playground with my kids on holiday.
Yes.
Because I think
I'll never forget that.
I think I'd listened to. I mean, it's a long time ago now, but I think I was listening to one of your shows with Chelsea, and I just sent you a voice note, and we just had it, a bit of a back and forth, and we just kind of hit it off straight away, I think. But
Did you know this, John? Did you know this
No,
story?
I don't think I've heard that. I heard the one I think this season when you were on, but I've never heard this story.
No, yeah. So
Yeah.
this is really good. Thank you for bringing that up, Matt. And this goes back to my whole point of how like relationships are built and fostered. I think Matt reached out to me when Chelsea and I first started the Coffee Creators, and we were new in the podcast world. We were new in the content creation world, and I've gotten messages from people, and I still didn't. When you read something, you kind of don't know how to conduct yourself when you reply. When you reply, like, okay, how should I sound? Should I sound like this? Should I sound like that? Like the tone of the words that you use, the words that you use can basically vastly change the tone of the messaging. And so I found myself constantly wondering what would be the perfect tone for me. The thing that Matt did was, instead of sending me an email, he sent me a voice message. And he was in the playground with his kids. And it sounded real. And you know what? The only thing that I got out of that entire message was like, this guy's awesome for putting himself out there, for introducing himself, making me realize that he's a complete human being. He didn't even have to talk about his accolades. He didn't even have to say that I run this, I run that, or I did this, or do that. No, it's just, this guy's awesome. This guy's is a real person. And I think that's the thing that really that made me like you instantly. Like, I like this. And even since that day, I've actually kind of thought about ways of how to bring that human connection back through my posts, through anything. And that can be done in so many different ways, right? Like show your face, obviously show your personality, the things that you like, the things that you don't like. And again, that goes back to just like, since then, Matt, like, I just trust you. I trust you, because regardless of what you post, what you do, because you're my friend. Like, I know Matt. Yeah, he's an awesome guy. So I trust whatever he says, and that's the most valuable thing, I think, that creators offer to these brands, like that connection. Because these brands, they don't have that connection. You have to work for that. You have to have something at stake for people to start trusting you, right? Did I say that correctly? But yeah, it's you have to put yourself out there, and that is the bridge that brands cannot have.
Authenticity, isn't it?
Yes, with our audience, because we've built that already, and that's your value. And so, not how many likes you get, not how many saves or whatever, but that relationship is that's your real value. Anyway, we've gotten so deep into this. But John, I don't know. Do you want to add something? I don't want to be like the only.
No, it's
person
good.
talking.
I was just kind of letting that all play out. I think it was a good discussion. So I was like, I'm not deep into Instagram, but it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. And so I was like listening to Matt and you just kind of talk about that. And that's the main thing that I ask myself is like, are my efforts on Instagram worth it? And what am I really trying to achieve? And recently, it just boils down to, because I've been tempted to just do reels on reels on reels. I have a friend, she's a fashion blogger. She just did she was at 9,000 for the longest time, and she couldn't break out of it. And then she just posted a ton of reels, probably like one every day. And she's in a span of maybe a month, she's at 17,000.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like, 9 to 17. And I'm like, man, should I do that? But yeah, I think it just goes back to, I want to connect to the real people that are there. So even though I can't go to brands and say, hey, I have 10,000 followers on Instagram, I can tell them, hey, a lot of these people are actually here for me, not because I made something viral. Same goes for my YouTube. people have always like, you know how like your family would go to you like, hey, you should do a giveaway, you should do this, you should do that. A lot of them have suggested a giveaway, and I'm like, my strategy for giveaways is to reward the people that are actually there, not necessarily to gain traction, because I don't need that. Like, I just want people to stick for me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's something I struggle with right now, is because, yeah, I'm at like 2,500 on Instagram, and it's like, you see like all of the creators that I follow like post like, I'm about to reach 10K right now. Can you guys like share this and all that? You know, I'm happy for them, but I'm just questioning for me, what do I actually want? And,
Okay, you mentioned something that I don't like. Like one practice that I don't like personally, and it's that like the whole, can you share this so my friend can reach 10,000? I appreciate the efforts. Like if anyone did that for me, I can't even remember. But if anyone did that for me back then, I really do. I genuinely appreciate it. But I prefer not to, because these people don't care about me. Like the
Yeah.
people who follow me don't care about me. You know why they followed me? Because you said to follow me, meaning they care about you. They wanted to help you, not me. And that's the relationship that's missing. So what I wanted to do was instead is, if you can introduce me to your friends and let me win their follow. You know what I mean? That's all I ask, but not share this so that this guy can reach. Again, I appreciate that,
yeah.
but it's not what I'm after. And so I think that's just always been my compass. Like if I only had like 5 followers, I'm gonna serve those 5 followers. You know what I mean? Like if I only have like I experienced working with just one client when I got laid off. Well, if this is the one client I have, I better make sure that I give him the best damn performance that I can give. You know what I mean? Like the best
Yeah.
service that I can give him, because he's all I got. You know what I mean? So I think as creators, if we look at our audience that way, it'll help us process things a little bit easier when it comes to like managing our disappointments, our expectations. Yeah, and especially like just the realities of this thing that we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to get off on a different
Yeah,
tangent,
no.
but
Well,
here
that's
we
good.
Move
are.
on, Michael. Move on.
So I'm gonna share with say thank you guys for sharing the lessons that you've learned so far this year. And I think for me, mine is very much similar to what you both have shared so far, and it's overextending myself. Basically, what John said, like scheduling everything and making sure, saying that, oh, I can do this, I can do that. Um, for me, my perspective was always like, if I can feed the algorithm more content, then the algorithm will like me better. Whether it's reels, posts, publish videos on YouTube. The problem was I realized that I can only do so much. No matter how many sleepless nights I get, the quality of the work will definitely suffer. It will definitely suffer. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I've made. And so now I'm still working towards it, but I'm a little bit more intentional. You don't see me on Instagram that much anymore. I'm still there, but you don't see me post as much because I found myself posting just for the sake of posting,
Yeah.
right? And then I'm like, okay, I'm at whatever following I have right now, it's not growing. So the old me, like the older, like a year ago me, would be obsessed over it. Like, what am I doing wrong? There's nothing. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just
But
maybe
it has changed a lot, because it's gone from kind of
Yeah.
that, where you get to a certain account size, and then it was like, okay, once you get to a certain size, you can get away with posting once a week, or
Yeah.
maybe twice at a push. And twice for me used to be quite a lot. But then you get sucked into that kind of thing, is you haven't posted today.
Yeah.
And and then you start looking through your camera roll for any shit you can chuck out there. That's a different angle
Anything.
that's a different angle of a post I did 4 months ago. I'll chuck that one out there. Or you start to bastardize little clips of videos to try and make a reel. You're like, I wonder if I can splice those 17 clips together.
We've all done that.
Yeah, exactly.
We've
And
all considered that at least.
you definitely do get to that point of just thinking, I need to put something out there. I need to, otherwise I'm going to get forgotten. And that is what Instagram has become this year. And I will be happy if that changes back. But if it doesn't, I think that's where you say, like all the things you guys have said today, it's being selective and not kicking yourself Don't just say yes to brands because you're desperate to get content out consistently and you end up stressing yourself over something that's worth like £5 and they've not paid you for it, but they want like 17 images and a reel and this and that. The big thing for me, and I've said it to a couple of my friends only in the last week. So John, when you touched on this, I was really happy. Is you learn to say no. And don't be afraid to, we all get FOMO. It's like there's nothing worse than when you say no to a product and then one of the other creators who's really talented makes that product look really good and you're like, I should have done that. I should have done that one because that really done is dope. But the stress that people don't see is, like you said, when you're doing your architect job, and you're living your life and you're doing everything else, and then you come home, you have your dinner, you put the kids to bed, and then you've got to create some banging content over something which you weren't that inspired about in the first place. It can eat away at you, and you get this stress which you really shouldn't be having unless you're doing this full time. I mean, really, it shouldn't be giving you anxiety and stress to the point where that's all you can think about. And I've fallen victim of that quite a few times this year. And like John says, sometimes just say no or set realistic deadlines. And I've started to do that because I was at a point where I'd finish a job and I'd have 2 more straight away. And it's been like that the entire year. So I'm very grateful for that. But I've really not taken my foot off the gas all year. It's learning to just pick the brands maybe a little bit more, kind of a bit more of a selective process there. I think
it should be, because
I
that's your shelf. Yeah. What's that, John?
I want to add to that a little bit because recently I posted this on my story because it was a realization that I had that day, and I was like, wow, this is big. So the 3 of us are kind of all like, we have different avenues. Right. So you're a realtor and you have your Instagram, YouTube, right? Michael, same thing, graphic designer, YouTube, and all that. And I think what that empowers us to do is to not be desperate. So that gives us more power to say no, actually. I'm like, because I was in this mode of like, okay, I feel like I just have to pick one, architecture or content creation. And I have to give one or the other. And then up until I thought about this beautiful kind of synergy of like, no, I get to do architecture for projects. I get to say to projects that I actually want and say no, because that will now then give me time to say yes to the content creation side of things. And I don't have to say yes to all content creation, because if I'm just doing that, I'll probably in that hamster wheel of like, oh, well, this is where my next paycheck is going to come from. I have to say yes. But having both of those avenues now, I'm like, oh, say yes to the right architecture projects and say yes to the right content creation projects. And I'm never in a desperate position of like, I just need to look for more.
Agree.
No, that's very nice. I actually want to add on to what you guys said with saying no. I firmly believe that that's one of the most powerful things a creator can do. It's very empowering to actually say no. And this is going to be a goofy metaphor, but that's because I make goofy metaphors because I can't think of any deep ones. But imagine walking in Costco. Now, Matt, I don't know if you're familiar with Costco, but Costco's like this big warehouse type of like it's
called
a
Macro
retail
over
store.
here. It's a similar thing. You buy in bulk, all that kind of
Right?
stuff.
Yeah. And so
Yep.
I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but in Costco, like they have all these samplers where you walk around, they offer you like these samples of like these food and whatever. Obviously, because of COVID, that hasn't happened in a while. But imagine being that guy and everyone's trying to sell to you the product, and you said yes to every sample, even if you don't like it. Like, why would you do that? You can say no, and that's completely fine. So I think that's how I see it. Again, in Michael's really simple brain, everything's just like Costco. Just say no if you don't want to eat it. You know what I mean? So that's I think it's one of the most powerful things that you can do as a creator, just by saying no. And don't give in to FOMO.
I think looking at my account all that time ago, I would say 90% of my posts were fun. They were things, I'd come home, get excited about a game. I'd theme, obviously a lot of games, what we do is we theme our setup to a game or something that we're playing or something like that. So my posts were mostly fun. And then every now and again you get a product chucked in there. And then this year it feels like it's product. And like every 10th post is something that I've just done because I walked in my room and gone, damn, my room looks nice today. It's changed a lot.
Yeah. And you know what, though? The selling point there really isn't your room, believe it or not. That's just the vehicle. But the selling point is, what does Matt like?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how many things you have in your room. If you don't like it, the people who trust you know that.
Mm.
And they'll be like, yeah, Matt doesn't like that. He's just putting it just because.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy it. But if you like
Yeah.
it, if you come home and you're like, oh, this is fun, this is cool, this is awesome, then that's the golden ticket there, I think.
Yeah, like yesterday, someone reached out to me and just asked, like, "Hey, do you put screen protector on your Apple Watch? And if so, what do you use?" And I'm like, I've never talked about my Apple Watch at all.
No.
If for to somebody to just reach out like that, that's
Yes.
yeah, that was kind of like, man, you know that they're there because they're interested in what you like.
Exactly. They trust you.
Yeah.
Because I think we go back to, like, again, human connection, especially now in COVID, you know, everything's through a screen. We're desperate to find out, like, who this person is and what they
Yeah.
like. And, you know, that's where we cling on to. Like, that's where the
Mm.
trust is. Anyway, you know, so that we don't get stuck in this.
Yeah,
Because this
yeah.
is like an
Yes.
entire episode already. But
Move on.
I want to say one of the other lessons that I learned, very important, very simple, but very important, is that the audience that I have on YouTube and Instagram are very different. So I made the mistake.
Yeah, they hate
of-
you on YouTube.
Yeah, they hate me on YouTube.
I've said this before. Michael's the nicest guy, but the
Yeah,
most
well,
hated that I know of. I
It's
don't know why.
bizarre. I don't get it. I honestly don't get it.
I've gotten so tired of responding to them, but I still check them. Like this morning, I'm like, someone called me like I selling to the man, and I'm like, oh, this account is just a bunch of commercials. I'm like, oh, okay. That's kind of like a compliment for me, but okay. But yeah, it's just hilarious that I still get it. But you know, that was my biggest mistake because I assumed in the beginning that if I had a large following on Instagram, I can easily bring them over to YouTube. That's not the case. So if you guys are doing that, just realize that your audience are very different. So you have to win
Yeah,
your
yeah.
audience on YouTube in a different way. All right, so we've shared like all those like lessons or things with the audience, and hopefully someone, you know, somewhere there in that whole jumbled mess of frustration and, you know, embarrassment and just like all these life lessons that we've encountered, you hopefully have gotten, you know, at least a little bit of information or something that can help you along. What I want to do next before, you know, for this side of the podcast, and I know we've gone a little bit over than what we were expecting, but this time I want us to share what we want to achieve next year. What is our goal next year? It can be a small goal, it can be a big goal, it can be ridiculous. And the reason why I want to do this is because I want to ensure, for me personally, I want to ensure that I'm always moving forward. Whether it's small steps, it's just I just need to move that needle ever so slightly, constantly. It can never just be sitting. It's okay to move back a little bit, but as long as I have the intention of moving it forward, you know what I mean? Because moving the needle back, it happens. That's called life. It's constantly going to push you back. The idea is you need to push back harder. So that's my goal. And for me personally, and I like to think, you know, I want to set like the same fire, I guess, with people, especially my friends, like you guys. Like I want to try my best to make sure that you guys are also moving forward. You know, that's just what it is. Because you guys are my friends, I'm not gonna sit down and be like, Matt just gave up on it, or John's just got, you know, he just decided he's not gonna do it anymore just because. No, I'm gonna hound you guys. I don't know where you live, but I'll find out. But
Well, you
I want.
definitely know where I live, Michael, because I was expecting a mug in the post that
I
never
know,
came.
I'm so sorry.
You have my address.
I've had it for so long. Okay, so I want everyone to talk about what their goal is for next year and what they can, what they want to try to achieve. That way we can
inspire
also
us
hold
first?
each other accountable. What's that?
You want to inspire us first
Oh,
by your
great.
goals?
I don't know if I'm going to inspire anyone.
President
Okay,
of America.
you know what? I'm going to set the crazy expectations, okay? The crazy expectations. And that's all it is, really. My own expectations for myself. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but obviously when I approach something, I have every intention of making it happen. I'm not just going to say I'm going to do this just for the heck of it, right? I have every intention of making it happen. Whether it really happens or not, I'm not sure. But okay, I'm going to read you guys a couple of goals that I wrote a few days ago, and I'm constantly adding to this list. Let me see. Where did I put that? It's funny because I was just reading this list an hour ago before we got on the podcast, and now I can't find it. Okay, let me see. Let me just type in goals here on my search. There you go. Okay, I found it. So for I've been writing goals since 2020, and I have them in like bullet points. And for every goal that I reach, I would check them off. So for 2020, I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13 goals. And
Yep.
I promise you, when I wrote these goals, I was expecting that if I got one of these 13, I would be extremely happy. Like I'd be like, this is awesome. I made a thing. You know, I did it. So in 2020, I wrote 13 goals. Out of those 13, I got 10 of them. I was not
Nice.
expecting that. I did not expect it at all. And they can be as little as, and I'm not talking about, when I talk about goals, I'm not saying wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. No, those aren't goals. Those are just like decisions that you make. My goal was in 2020 was start a podcast. Another goal was more videos for YouTube. Another goal was get a dream sponsor. And I named those dream sponsor. I said GroveMade. And I also made another one. I said get Ergonoffice as a sponsor. I got that. I also wrote down build a PC. I'm like, I know nothing about PCs. I built a PC. I said build
Still
a
don't.
gaming setup. I still don't.
Still don't.
Still don't. I built a gaming setup. I also said get another dream sponsor. I got another dream sponsor. I also put down finish a first setup makeover. So you can imagine, like when I was writing down these goals, they were kind of like, well, these are kind of lofty, but after 2020, I looked back and I started checking off like the goals. I wasn't even actively looking at it like every day. I just wrote down the things I really want to achieve. And I was surprised to check off 10. And so for 2021, I wrote, okay, so this is to bring some, I'm not sugarcoating anything. Okay. So for 2021, I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I wrote 9 goals. Out of the 9, I got 2. So it's not always going to be, realistically, it's not always going to happen. You're not always going to get all of them, but I still got some, right? So I think that's the importance of writing down goals. So going back again, getting, reining things back a bit. Yeah, I'm pulling things back again. Going back to the 2022 goals, I wrote to get 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. I wrote a special product collaboration. And when I say special product collaboration, it can be like, okay, this is extremely lofty, but that just for the sake of example, I'm holding a Starbucks cup right now. I wanted to say Starbucks x Michael Soledad, that type of collaboration. I said monetize both podcasts that I run so that they can be self-sustaining. So it doesn't mean I have to monetize them in a way where it's like, I'm making thousands of dollars. No, just enough so I can pay for the yearly subscription of the Zoom,
hosting.
whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's all. As long as I can make it self-sustaining. I also wrote down create consistent content related to cars because it's one of the things that I'm very passionate about. I wrote down $25,000 sales on Amazon. That sounds ridiculous, but it really is one of the goals I'm trying to make in a month. I want to try to make $25,000 in sales on Amazon. I also wrote down a down payment for a vehicle that I extremely love. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's nice to put down the goals and have a very highly influential guest on my podcast. And I think.
So you already got
Tick. There we go.
Yeah, I got two. I got two.
Boom. Check that one right off now.
Thank you, guys.
that. Have us
All right.
back on January 1st, and then you'll check it again. See?
Done.
I should publish this next year. So that
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So that's the list that I started on those and those are my goals that I've listed so far. And mind you, I'm going to keep adding to this list as the months go on. How about you guys?
Well, I've actually got mine written down here, but I haven't checked it. I was like, my dusty iPhone there with my goals on it. It's I hit 4 of them, and one of them was keep that beard growing. So my goals weren't exactly lofty, but the two that I really wanted to hit, which was the 500 subs and the 30,000 Instagram, I didn't hit those. But I think we'll reset those next year, and we'll keep going. One of them was just to learn to edit video better. and I made a big switch from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve only about 2 months ago, and I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, good.
It's just, I don't know, it just feels easier to edit on. It feels a lot more lightweight than Premiere Pro. It just used to crash the hell out of all my systems.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying that. Connect with more creators. I think that's a yearly kind of reset goal. Improve my tech spaces. This is one of the things probably hold me back from getting on YouTube more, is the fact that people love a setup tour, right?
Yeah.
But my setup changes every week. So I'd be like, I'll wait another week because I'm about to get that chair, or I'm about to get this. And, if I do my video, it's going to be out of date in a week's time. I should have just done the goddamn video and then done another one in 6 months' time. So it's that sort of procrastination, because there's always something else which is going to happen. Just do the video, damn it. Just get it out there. Because I would have been I guarantee you, if I'd have done a setup tour in the middle of this year, even if it would be completely out of date now, I would have hit my 500 subs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I should have done it. So procrastination, don't procrastinate. Just commit to doing something and do it.
That's good.
Nice.
That's a good list. I don't know why you think it's not lofty. That's good.
Well,
That's awesome.
I think it's just I don't like missing goals. So I always like to say, set goals that are set different tier goals, but set a few which are achievable that you're going to hit, because nothing worse than making all 10 goals really hard.
Oh yeah,
and
there has to
you
be.
miss every single one. So set some bite-sized ones that are just satisfying. You're going to hit those on a weekly or monthly basis. You've obviously got to do stuff to hit those goals, but you should hit them.
Yeah.
And I do the same at work with my staff. We don't set sales targets. We don't set KPI targets. We don't set targets. You know what is good and you know what is bad. And I don't need to tell you at the end of the month if you've not done very well, because you can see it in your pay packet. So we don't set targets. You come into work, we'll work hard. If you work hard, you get the results. So I like realistic and easy to achieve goals. But I think next year, YouTube, I'm going to go again. We're going to go again with YouTube, and I think kind of this little setup I've got going here at the moment with this kind of background and stuff gives me a little bit more confidence to create. Because I think the hardest thing for me, I'm not sure. Looking at your Instagram, you guys have dedicated rooms, which are kind of your creative spaces, whereas Michael, my room very well.
Yeah.
it's my dining room. We're on my dining table at the moment, and I have a fake worktop. I don't know if I can just tilt this up so our viewers, I have this fake white worktop on top of my dining table, so it looks like I've got this lovely white studio desk, when actually it's my kids' old desk from their bedroom.
What's so interesting about this whole thing, Matt? This entire time you see it that way as a disadvantage. I completely disagree, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. The reason why I think that's your advantage is because a lot of people can relate with you. And
that's always been my niche, is the small room and the
think about
small
this.
space.
Think about this. The fact that you have an awesome view right now, I have it on screen. It looks awesome. They don't really care whether it's small or not. They just want to have an awesome looking presentation when they're creating their content, right? Yeah. And so for you, the fact that you have a small space and it's kind of like a hybrid. If they know that, they'll be like, "Oh crap, I can do the same thing." So that's an inspiration.
That's definitely a big part, I think, playing the next year, because this has only come about in the last 2 weeks. Because as you know, normally I'm either recording there or I go over to the other side and I'm facing a wall. So it's very hard to get a nice backdrop. You either look at a door or a window. Whereas this way, just putting the dining table out in the middle of the room. And shooting back the other way means I can get that nice backdrop and I can get the lights, and I can obviously get them the right lighting and stuff. So actually, only in the last 2 weeks, it's given me that little buzz to go, actually, I quite like this. It looks like a little studio. So
it's pretty cool, man.
Do you know what I mean? So, it's always changing. And I think you just got to find something that you're confident creating in. And this space has worked hard for me. I've grown to 25,000 followers from this one room, essentially.
That's pretty cool.
So, that is something that I have to keep reminding myself, is that, I don't have a studio, but look how far we've come in those 3 years of creating these spaces.
What you should be thinking about is what else can I do if I had a bigger space? You know what I mean? If you
just
can
kick the
achieve
kids
that.
out. I just kick the wife and kids out, and then I can have their bedroom. I can have a gym.
You can have everything.
No, I think that YouTube video though would be very cool to see. Okay, this is what you guys see, and then just pan onto this is actually where it's at, and I make it work.
Yeah, and that could be a nice intro video to kick off 2022.
Yeah.
Yes, I would definitely watch that, and not just because you're my friend. I definitely would want to watch that because I want to understand how you can make it work. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll give it a little shake for you. I'll do it. I'll do it at a minute of your choice for £10. I'll monetize the beard in 2022.
This video is sponsored by Michael, and then you just like,
So weird.
What I'll do is I'll pull a picture out from underneath it of Michael.
yeah, it's so funny.
I'm almost willing to actually pay for that.
Done. We'll sign the contracts after the show.
It's funny.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I think they're good. Your goals are good. I like
Yeah.
that. How about you, John?
For me, the big thing that I wanted to achieve this year was quit my job, which I was able to do in August. That was just a big relief, and at the same time, a lot of responsibility and weight. It was like a weight was lifted off my shoulder, and then a different weight was put back onto it, you know? But it's been good. This year's been good. My goals for next year, I wrote, I never want to be too attached to a number, but then for us as creators, it's hard to really quantify how much we're growing or improving other than the numbers itself. And so it's hard not to set a goal and not put a number onto like subscriber count, follower count.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I put 100K subs on YouTube. I'm at 17 right now. 10K for IG. I'm at 2,500. And then I wanted to have one of my top like favorite creators on the podcast, because it's like, a different avenue. It's more about like life in general, and I just want to get to know them in that area.
Is that Matt or me?
Hey, yeah, you're already
Matt's.
on it.
I know.
So maybe Matt in the next one, 2022. Yeah. And then a household sponsor, meaning just like, someone big who's actually like, when you say it's like, oh, like you don't need to explain who they are. People
Yes.
know like, oh man, yeah. And then hopefully publish the course that I was thinking of. And it's, Michael and I kind of talked about it just to get Matt into like know a little bit about it. It's just about designing your space, basically.
Love it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet if that's going to be like a paid course kind of thing or whatever. And that's part of what I want to figure out in 2022.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah,
Sounds
that's
very
it for
exciting.
me.
I want to add one more goal.
For me?
No, for me.
Oh,
For
okay.
everyone, actually, for everyone. And I'm just because I'm ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I know what Matt said was very true. Like make bite-sized goals so that you can get yourself up to speed and you can gather enough confidence, right? Completely agree. Completely
Yeah.
agree. But I also think, for me personally, I think it's important to have goals that are absolutely scary. Because if I don't reach out for those huge goals, if I don't go for them, I'm usually just going to find the most comfortable one and be like, okay, I did that and I'm fine. I'm okay. But why not reach for the high ones? And it's okay if you don't reach it. I mean, if you don't, just try to grab it. Because that's one of my what do you call this? Like my personal motto, I guess, is go after it. What do you want? Go after it. Like literally, you are the only one who's stopping you right now from going after what you want. So that's what I've been telling myself. So the goal that I want to add to my list, and you guys can add it as well if you want to, but my goal is to make even bigger goals. I want goals that are almost ridiculous and almost like scary, like something that I can look at and be like, oh boy, yeah. Because I honestly think my goals are not too big, aren't big enough. They should be so big that it's almost embarrassing to talk about. Because I firmly believe that that's the reason why people have dreams. Because in dreams, you have no boundaries, right? So why would you call it a dream if you put boundaries around it? Like I can only go this, you know what I mean? To me, dreams are the ones that are just endless. The ones that will really surprise you.
I
So
tend
that's
to
one
get
of my
chased a
goals.
lot in my dreams. So, yeah, my dreams are quite scary.
Dreams are supposed to be scary.
Yeah, lots of chasing, lots of drowning.
Oh, you mean literally?
I think I think my dreams are very much kind of telling you how my life feels right now. But,
All right. Well, guys, I really appreciate the time that you spent with me today. And thank you for being here on the final episode of Coffee Creators for this year. I actually didn't expect the conversation to turn this way, but I enjoyed it. I thought it meant it was meaningful for me, and I hope you guys feel the same way. Hopefully.
Of course.
Yes.
There's
of
like a
course.
dead silence.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Michael
uh-oh.
gave us a death stare, so we had to say yes. Yes, Michael. Yeah, I agree.
No, because I think yeah, no, sure. I think I'm just at a point in my life where it's like, if you're gonna do something, Michael, I'm talking to myself. If you're gonna do something, then you better make sure that you do it for a reason, not just for shits and giggles. I mean, shits and giggles is always gonna be fun,
Mm.
but it's like, add something to someone's life, even if it's not yours. Just add something to someone's life. I think if that's your legacy, then that's fine. At least you're not being just someone hidden away, tucked away. So
Here's
that's
an idea
really
for you. This is one which John might like the idea of this one, but this was one that you and I have touched on this ever so slightly, was creating this, more people around a table having a chat. But what about the podcast club? And we have a list of 12 creators that are in this podcast club. And it's nice that, we've got some nice headshots and we've got a little bio about everyone. And it's on rotation. And those people can dip in and dip out. But that's like a core of 12 creators of different strengths and different backgrounds and different styles and techniques and whatever. But those people are part of this crew, which doesn't really change. But because obviously we can't all commit to going on a show every week, and 12 people, let's be honest, would be chaos. But they could be part of like a team of podcasters that dip in and out of content. People get to know them. I just got this vision of a podcast, but more people. It'd be a bit like if you had like a Joe Rogan, I think, over there.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're in the studio together, you can do 4 people in the studio. It's a lot more natural. But when you're doing kind of Zoom, you kind of don't get the cue of when people are going to talk and that kind of stuff. But I have this kind of vision of have a podcast team and a team of creators, and it could become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But you have like this team of people that aren't on every episode every week, and you can still do guests.
Yeah.
But I think that could be really cool if you do it right.
That's a very good idea. And you know what? I
that's
have an
super
idea.
cool.
It's called Coffee Creators.
There you go.
No, that's a really good idea, man.
Well,
I
you know
actually
this
like
kind of this big vibe that's going with Peter McKinnon, this whole pirate thing.
that. Mm-hmm.
Just imagine that, but for people who like podcasts. So you create this kind of like this kind of real niche kind of community where there is an aesthetic behind it, of course, as well. Whether it's the dark and moody sort of look, or the the Peter McKinnon sort of vibes with, you can bring out some merch that's very cool for people to photograph. But you have like that's the team. That's like that's the 12 cowboys there, and they are all creators with all different strengths and assets. I think that
I like that. I like that.
well,
Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. That's definitely something that we can explore. It's like a round table of of creators, and that's the brand, right? Like, okay,
so
who
like
are we
John,
getting
you've
next,
got your show, I've got my show, Michael's got his show, Chelsea does her bits. You can still do all of that, but every now and again you come together for like a little power show or something like that. It'd be quite cool.
That's
like
a goal. Okay, write that down. I'm gonna write that down. That's a goal. Like, we need to have like a combined podcast of like different creators. So
How
I
powerful
like
would
that.
that be? You could have all of these different people and brands could come to you, and you've got this huge tapped market of audiences and different,
that's
like you said,
super
styles,
interesting.
nationalities, live in different countries. You get different spin on things.
Yeah.
It'd be quite
Yeah.
cool if you had like a holding page, and we had like you said, it could be Coffee Creators. We could
Yeah.
be
No, I was just kidding, but yeah.
Madness, Merry
No,
women.
no. Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. Okay, we need to start. We need to talk about it for next year. There's definitely something there. I think that's worth exploring. But yeah, I mean, you guys have been awesome. I really appreciate your friendship, both of you. I really appreciate
Likewise.
the advice. I trust you guys. I
welcome.
listen to I respect your counsel. Everything. Seriously, like, you guys are more than just Zoom faces to me. You guys are people. I appreciate that. And I also want to say thank you to the audience for being a part of the Coffee Creators podcast for this long. It's been 2 years. And although our dear friend Chelsea is still on vacation, actually, she just came back. She came back from Norway. And I told her, I said, Chelsea, please tell everyone you're on vacation because they're wondering why you're not here. And she's like, yeah. I'll post it on my Instagram when I'm in Norway. And then she kind of did, but she kind of didn't. So she's busy enjoying life. So that's what
Yeah,
Chelsea's doing.
she's got some nice family content up there recently.
Yeah,
I think Were they baking cookies today? I can't remember. They were doing something which was nice today.
Chelsea's doing fine, and we miss you, Chelsea. But yeah, so
Absolutely.
thank you for being a part of the Coffee with Creators podcast. And just a quick note, actually, before I end this episode, and wish you guys a happy just holidays, New Year and Christmas. Please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, even though the Coffee with Creators is now. You're able to watch our episodes on Spotify. That's a new feature that Spotify just included. So I'm excited to share that you can now watch us. Like, you can see these pretty faces right now, especially Matt's amazing beard in Spotify. But also, I would like to encourage you guys to help us reach 100 subscribers on what do you call this, on YouTube, just because it makes it easier for people to find us when you're on the platform, and you don't have to kind of search, some weird, words. But anyway, also reach out to us on Instagram at CoffeeWCreators, and you can email the show at coffeewithcreatorspodcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of my friend Chelsea and John and Matt, again, thank you so much for being here. I'd like to
Pleasure.
say, yeah, thank you so much. I'd like to say thank you guys for listening and for supporting the show, and we'll see you guys again next season. Have a very wonderful holiday season and a happy New Year.
Merry
Take
Christmas.
care, guys. Merry Christmas. Bye.
Bye.